Cosgrove.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Police and asks, does she stand by all statements she has made in relation to increasing the numbers of police? If so, how does she reconcile her statements with police projections that 8 out of 12 police districts will have fewer constabulary employees by the end of 2011 than they had at the end of June 2009?
The Honourable Judith Collins.
Mr Speaker, yes, I do stand by all the statements I have made. This government is committed to putting 600 extra police officers on the front line throughout New Zealand. We have already reached our goal of putting an extra 300 officers into Counties Manukau. In relation to the figures raised by the member, in June 2009, 11 of our 12 police districts exceeded their staff target levels. Across the country, there were 83 more officers than were funded by the previous budget. The reason for this is that the number of police officers leaving the force has dropped to its lowest level since World War II. The numbers are now moving to the funded level, and we are on target to put 600 extra police on the front line by the end of next year.
Point of order.
Point of order. The Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
Mr Speaker, I seek leave to table a data table prepared by the New Zealand Police of 16 June 2010, showing that 8 out of the 12 police districts will have less constabulary staff by the end of 2011 than they had at the end of June 2009.
Leave is sought to table that document. Is there any objection? There is no objection. Question of Hilary Calvert.
Supplementary to the Minister, how does she expect ever to have sufficient police when local police forces struggled to cope with illegal occupations in Taipa Bay and Papaaraha? When ministers are heightening Maori expectations on the foreshore and seabed, and then in the case of Minister Finlayson, telling the locals that occupations are a criminal matter and that they should call the police?
The Honourable Judith Collins.
Mr Speaker, the matter of the Taipa Bay occupation, I understand, was dealt with very well by police yesterday.
The Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
To the Minister, does she stand by her statement of 29 October 2010 that, quote, nothing deters criminals like plenty of police on the beat, unquote? And if so, does she believe that the fact that the Wellington Police District will have 46 fewer police by the end of next year compared to June 2009 will actually make life easier for criminals and less safe for law-abiding Wellingtonians?
The Honourable Judith Collins.
Mr Speaker, yes to the first part of the question, and I can tell that member that when his government left office in November 2008, the figures in Wellington were 789. They will be exceeded by the end of next year, just in accordance with our promise.
Hilary Calvert.
Supplementary, does the Minister consider it acceptable that police resources and numbers are stretched by ministers declaring what are clearly political problems like the Taipa Bay occupation merely a policing issue?
The Honourable Judith Collins.
Mr Speaker, the police take their own decisions on matters like Taipa Bay, and I certainly, and no ministers that I'm aware of, made any decisions about that. They considered this a matter that they should be involved with, and I think that they've dealt with it.
The Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
To the Minister, does she stand by her statement of 20 May 2010 that, quote, our top priority has been to increase the number of officers on the beat in our neighbourhoods, unquote? And if so, what does she believe Aucklanders, who will have 32 fewer police at the end of next year than they had at the end of June 2009 in the Auckland Police District, will think the way she has prioritised their needs?
The Honourable Judith Collins.
Mr Speaker, I believe that Aucklanders will be very pleased that when this government came to office they had 703 officers. They will, at the end of next year, have 712 officers.
The Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
To the Minister, does she stand by her statement of 3 July 2009 that, quote, increasing the numbers of police will not only make police more visible and better able to respond to crime, but will be an opportunity to model better ways of policing, unquote? And if so, how does she expect police in the Southern Police District, who will have 22 fewer police at the end of 2011 than there were in June 2009, will be able to demonstrate better policing methods to people living in that district?
The Honourable Judith
Mr.
Collins.
Speaker, I'm sure that the people of the southern region will be thrilled to know that under this government, their police will in fact have increased from 558 to 565. Actually, that's an increase.
The Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
Does she stand by her statement of 12 December 2008 that, quote, New Zealand police are being stretched too thin, and, unquote, and if so, how much thinner is she willing to see the Waikato Police District stretched, considering that papers prepared by her own department show that they will have 18 fewer police at the end of 2011 than there were in June 2009?
The Honourable Judith Collins.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I am fully aware that Waikato is due under the Commissioner's decision to get further police resources. And in fact, I note that when this government came into office, Waikato had 573 officers. At the end of next year, they'll have 598. Even that member should be able to work out that's an increase.
The Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
To the Minister, how does she reconcile her statements about increasing resources for police with the reality reported in the September Police Association newsletter that, for example, in the words of Sergeant Kevin Stewart, that police are, quote, attending fewer jobs due to workload and a lack of staff, unquote, and in the words of several other police shift supervisors, that police see, quote, a lack of numbers on the beat as compromising safety for frontline officers. How does she respond to those frontline officers?
Mr. Speaker, I'd respond this way. The previous government took 4 years to trial the taser. This government came into office, got 720 tasers out there on the front line, keeping our staff safe. I can also say that this government is putting in 600 extra police, and under anyone's maths, that's an increase.
Point of order, the Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
Mr. Speaker, I seek leave to table a data set prepared by the New Zealand Police which shows that the third tranche of additional police promised and funded by the former Labour government came into force by the end of 2008-09 financial year, the date that we are comparing against.
Leave us sought to table that document. Is there any objection? There is objection. Point of order, the Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
I seek leave to table a paper prepared by the Office of page 5 of a paper prepared by the Office of the Auditor General of 16 June 2010, which quotes, Vote Police was reduced by $20 million in 09-10 as a result of line-by-line review of expenditure.
Leave us sought to table that document. Is there any... point of order, Craig. Well, leave us being sought to table a document.
As a clarification.
I'll hear the member.
Is that a committee document as part of financial reviews?
Yes, it is.
Order. We just need to be a little careful here that if that was advice to a select committee that hasn't reported yet, then it would be confidential to the committee.
Point of order, sir. This advice was noted in the transcript in public session.
Okay.
And it's on the record.
If it's on the record in public...
Point of order. Mr. Speaker.
I'll hear it's an interesting point that's been raised. I'll hear Craig Foss.
Mr. Speaker, the fact that it was mentioned or not in public session, that is, as I understand it, confidential to the committee. It is a committee document. It's actually outside standing orders to refer to it in public anyway. And with what the member seems to be intending to do is actually break standing orders by breaking the confidence of the committee. Until that report comes to the House about that annual report, that is a committee document.
That's right. Well, this is a very interesting issue that has arisen. I accept that absolutely. And what I'm a little loath to rule on it without checking further. So what I probably am best to do is take the member's word and leave it to the wisdom of the House. And so, now what I'll do for the Honourable Clayton Cosgrove is I'll put the leave and leave it to the...
Seriously, this is not financial review, sir. This is advice regarding the estimates, which is in public session. Has been in public session and the quote was noted in public session.
If the estimates have indeed been reported back to the House, that does seem to resolve that issue. Leave us sought to table that document. Is there any objection? There is no objection. Question number 2, Pesata Sam Lotuinga.